What's up, Rockstars, and welcome to my review of Witcher: The Old World. This is by Go On Board. If you don't know what they did before, they did Titans really well. That was another one I covered, and they have just been going strong ever since. They just delivered that, and now they're ready to show you their next game. I'm ready to review it, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, before I dive into this, I want to thank my YouTube members and patrons. It is through their financial support that I'm able to bring you this honest coverage on the channel, whether it's critiquing a company, or talking about the industry, or reviewing a game, or just unboxing or sharing my impressions of Kickstarters that are out every single month. If you appreciate that level of honesty where I give you my honest opinion, not my wallet's opinion, it's because I don't take any money from any game developer. It is all thanks to them. So thank you so much for financially supporting buying these really expensive games and running a channel and all the production costs that happen this way. A little tidbit, actually, when I was unboxing The Witcher, there is an unboxing, I'll link down below if you want to see in detail all these miniatures up close and everything like that. I actually had a little snafu where I didn't click the microphone in all the way when I changed, because I only have one camera right now. Again, patrons are working on getting that second one. I do appreciate you for that, for an overhead view, right? Because I view it like this, and then we do an overhead, really close-up view. And when I swapped the camera over, the microphone didn't go in. And at least not all the way. I didn't snap it in. And so that has actually ruined several videos in the past based off my old camera. But this new camera has an ability to record multiple audio streams at the same time. So I had a backup. And so I was able to actually get that video out to you guys and it wasn't ruined completely. And so again, it really does matter. And I do appreciate it greatly. If you can, there's a link down below to those if you want to give to either Patreon or YouTube membership. Either way, I'd love to have you as part of our team. But if not, that's fine too. Simple like, a comment saying this video was helpful. If you have any questions, by the way, go ahead and ask them down below. And that's all fine. And I love it and I appreciate it. And subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. All right, now let's go ahead and dive in. And by the way, there are timestamps. Feel free to follow the timestamps. And one more announcement, actually. I announced 2 winners of the Into the AM, they're the shirt company I typically wear, the gift cards, and I didn't hear back. So I will link down below to the video where I announce those giveaways, but I'll also, or the winners, I'll also say their names down in the description below. So if you want to know if you won and you didn't see that video, I want to get you your gift card. So anyway, we'll go and do that. Now I'm going to summarize the game so you have a sense of how this game plays before I get into it. But it's just a sense. I will be doing a details video. That's right. Just like I did with Darkest Dungeon and all those other games, I will do one for The Witcher for you guys so that you can see it on launch day and know a lot more detail about how this game actually plays. So when you go into that Kickstarter, you're going to be fully ready to just dive in and understand exactly what you're getting and what value each thing has. And I'll be able to do that for you guys here soon. But overview for now. And then if I dive into something, I'll discuss it maybe in depth. But suffice it to say, and this is just literally how we finished one of our games. Okay, so the last game we played was a 3-player game, and this is kind of where we ended up. I cleaned it up a little bit for you guys, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But you have a Witcher, right, that you choose, a school. This is the School of the Bear, right? And then you have your different cards here in a different starting location on the map. And what you do is you draw cards at the end of your turn, right? But you'll start out with some cards too. And then you have little symbols on the bottom that match the different terrain, mountain, forest, and water. And you can go to there by discarding and then being able to go to the location that you want. Now, as you go to a location, you can do that as many times as you want. There are different activities or activations that you can do, or actions that you can do at each one. And they vary. At your school, you can pay some gold to raise your skill levels. You have a combat, a defense, an alchemy, and armor. Combat lets you draw more cards in fighting. Defense lets you have a higher shield level. Alchemy allows you to use more potions in one turn. And then your special, I said armor because that's on here. Your last one is special. It's unique to each person. Okay, so this guy has armor, that guy has swordsmanship, this person has venomous steel, and they all do different things and act differently, but you can rank up in that. And if you get to the 5th level, you gain a a trophy, if I can remember the rule. And that's really the objective of the game, is to gain trophies as a Witcher. You can gain those by fighting other Witchers. You can gain those by going on hunts and fighting monsters. You can gain those by leveling up your ranks. But if you want to win the game, you have to at least fight somebody. You can't just be raising ranks, okay? You need 5 of them. So you can upgrade combat, defense, and alchemy, but that ain't enough. So you need to actually do some actions and actually get your trophies, right? Actually attack people too. So it is that little competitive thing, though, that will have a solo and co-op. So you're going around and you're, discarding cards to move to a different area, and then this will allow you to gain a potion, so you can get a potion, and then I can come up here and I can trade one of my cards for an equal or lesser value because they're ranked 0, 1, or 2, or I can come up here and get a free level of my alchemy, or I can go over here, and if I have no gold, I can gain a gold, and then I can trash 2 of these to kind of move things around in the store. A little bit more on that as well. And if you're with a area of a Witcher, you can challenge them to some dice poker, right? Everybody loves dice poker, and you can actually bet on that and gain some money from that, or you can challenge them to a brawl, in which case you're going to fight them, and they can't even decide against it. They can decide not to gamble. You can go and gamble against, just regular random people. There's a few different things that you can do, but that's kind of the gist of how you're moving around. Now, as you move around, there are monsters that are in different locations, but eventually you're going to go to where you're done. Let's say I'm done here, okay? And so after you're done, then you get to decide if you're going to meditate, which you do at once you're at the max level to gain that trophy, or you can do an exploration either outside of town or inside of town, kind of the outskirts and then inside. And or you can fight if there's a monster there or another Witcher. And so you can kind of go around doing that stuff. You can also gain quests where you can go on different quests and find different things. Especially a lot of times you'll come across big story events where you have a companion, or you're following a lead that somebody has or something like that. But that's really the gist of the game. The only other thing is combat, and combat's pretty simple here. Let me see if I even have a good card. These are all the starting cards, so they're crap. But no. Okay, let's go ahead and do sure, these 2. Okay. So you have here, I'll go and zoom in this and edit. You have your color, right? And then you have different symbols. These are attacks. And then this shows what it leads into, so you can combo. So you can play this card to get a +1 on your draw, so you draw an extra 1. And then if you play another purple, you gain an attack. So this is actually 2 attacks and a +1 draw with this combo. And so that's really the gist of it. You have the stuff in here, and then the stuff it leads into. Then there are different things where some allow you to take the card back. There's some where you can actually do some healing mechanics. I'll talk more about the combat later, but that's just kind of the gist of it, is you're playing that, and then whoever loses all of their cards first wins. Or loses, sorry. So if you get your opponent to have no more cards in their hand or their deck anymore, then you win. If they got it to where you have no more cards left, then they won. And that's really it. You play until you get enough trophies, and then you win the game. These events here are typically multiple choice. You have somebody read down to the line, and then you read what happened. Sometimes they'll ask you to go to a different story event or something like that, and you'll follow up. So sometimes it's a multi-part story. It just kind of depends. But for the most part, they're kind of a one and done thing, I think, in general. But yeah, okay, so that's the game. So now let's go ahead and talk about what I liked about it. Now, and what I didn't like about it. I'm going to have some pros and I'll have some cons. There's going to be a list in the back. But if you just want to save some time and you don't give a crap about what I have to say beyond this, I liked this game. So you can go ahead and close the video, leave a like on your way out. And then head over and, get ready for the Kickstarter if you're watching this when I post this, or go ahead to the Kickstarter. It'll be linked down below. Either way in the description. But now I'm going to explain why. And I'm going to start with the fundamental thing I like. And this is blanket statement. This is one of the easiest ways to get me to like your game. I love it. I love this idea. So one of my favorite games, as you guys know who have watched the channel a lot, is Conan. One of the reasons I like Conan is because the gem system, not even just the river is cool, but the gem system is so many different things. It's one mechanic, right? Moving a gem over, right? But it's used to fight, it's used to reroll, it's used to move, it's used to attack, it's used in defense, and it's your health. It is all of that combined in one simple thing that I can describe easily, which is you move one gem to the appropriate thing to do the appropriate thing. Done. You understand how to use gems now, and and it's multifaceted. It's not in your turn. It's in your turn. You have to think about keeping some and losing some and all of that kind of stuff. I love very simplistic mechanics that are nuanced and multifaceted in how they interact with other mechanics, right? So if I'm being attacked, I can use this as defense. But then also, if I'm attacking, then I use that. And then if I want to move farther, I use that. And then if I want to do a special ability thing, I use that. And then if I love it. I love it. To me, it's such great design that it's like everything else has been peeled off to leave this core little golden nugget of a cool thing. In The Witcher, that's these cards here. So these cards are your way to move around, right? I already kind of discussed that, right? So you're having to discard them to move around and do different things, right? And maybe you are going to attack, so then you have to use it for your attack, right? So now you're using it to attack people. But also, if you recall, if you run out of cards, you're dead, which means the more cards you have, the more life you have, which means it's your life as well. And I didn't actually discuss this part, but after you move around and then after you do an event, you then get to shop, right? I'm going to call it shop, train, whatever you want to call it. I forget what they call it. I'd have to you get a new ability card, but they can have a cost, right? So the 2 up here cost extra, the 1 down here costs less, and these just cost their value. So if I want this very cool crushing blow that does 3 freaking damage with only a -1 to the draw that I do next turn, I have to pay 2, which means they're like my currency. They're like my money. Now, I have money for other things, but when it comes to actually gaining these cards and this deck building, I use them for that too. So they are literally in this step. They are in this step, and they are in this step. And they are interacted with constantly. Sometimes you'll come across Sarah and it'll be like, hey, you need to trash one of those, which is literally like pick a card, it's out of the game. Okay, you're never going to see that card again. Sometimes it's pick any of them that are ranked 1. So anyone that are cost 1, maybe you want this block, 2 shields plus an attack afterwards. Yeah, let's go ahead and gain that. You just got it for free, right? Or you had to fight some vampire for it or some other crazy junk, or you bet a drunken dwarf on it, or whatever it might be. Like, it is in everything. It's in the movement. It's in buying stuff, it's in the events, it's in stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And then on top of that, once you're actually fighting, again, it's your health as well. It's really nice because you're sitting there and you're thinking, I want to move, so I could use this for move. And this is the same thing Conan does with their gems, the same thing. And I love it, right? So I have these gems or these cards, and I could choose to move, but if I move, I won't have as strong as an attack. Right? Because I'll have that less in my card. Because when you start an attack, it's just what you got in your card. You draw at the end, not the beginning, right? So I'll be not as strong if I go in for a fight. But I really want to move. So I have to decide what this is worth to me. Or maybe I get all those, right? And I get all that. But then I want to get that expensive one. And so if I use all my cards, well, I'll draw at the end and then get the card. I'll have less cards than if I had just more cards. So when I paid for it, I still had some left over. So there's all this thought process on what this is. This card is not just worth its shield. It's not just worth its mountain. And it's not just worth its cost. It's worth everything, and I love it. I love it. I love that in games. I cannot stress that enough. It's so good to see something so well thought out and nuanced to where it's not just, you know how sometimes you get a game and it's kind of its own little thing. Now, I'm going to maybe upset a few people here. I don't know, but like the combat in Tainted Grail is wholly separate from any other mechanic that you're doing, right? So you're doing these different mechanics, and then you kind of play this minigame on the side. And that's fun to build combos and do that kind of thing with the card, but it's not like it's integrated into every other aspect of the game, right? It is kind of a wholly separate thing. And then some things just seem like they're added on, like the Black Rose in the Black Rose Wars actually just seems kind of tacked on. It's like, I don't know if I need to actually do that whole different mechanism and track its victory points and where it's going and all that kind of stuff. It just seems extra, right? And it just kind of does its own thing. This is integrated and in such a nuanced and fleshed out and well thought out way. It's really good. I know I've been on this a lot, but I can't stress enough, and it's why it's the first one that I want to talk about, because in my mind, it's a good sign that the developer has really thought things through and has really taken the time to try and make the game mechanics interact, where it's not just connect the dots, but it's a whole star with crisscross and everything's matching to 3 different things and everything's integrated. And so that's really good. So blanket statement, I liked that. Really, really good. Okay, another thing I wanted to say was that the game scales really, really well. Like, I really like how the game scales. One of the nice things about it is if you start at larger counts, and in fact, they say over 3, right? And so I tried that, right? I played a 4-player game as well, and there's a few different changes. One of the changes are you start with one of your abilities already up. You also start with different amounts of gold and different amounts of the cards that you draw. And the reason that is to keep the game time down, because obviously, you know how games typically say, like, it has 15 minutes per player, 20 minutes per player. Well, what they were able to do with that is help mitigate that a little bit. And they're still adding a little bit of time, but it wasn't appreciable time. It didn't seem so much longer when I played 4 than when I played less, right? It was very nice to be able to, like, not like break the game or anything like that, but just start where you essentially need less turns to be able to go up and do that. And everybody starts that way. And then the gold works as well, because one of the things is I play and then you play and then you play and then I play, right? And so if I play first, and if I'm right here and you're right here, I could attack you before you even have a chance to do anything, right? And so there is that little bit of advantage of going sooner, right? You will always have, because you always get a card. Typically, you don't have to, but typically you always get a card at the end of your turn. You can get cards other ways, but so often if somebody just goes more than before you, then they have at least one. Then they have at least one more card than you, right? And so if they're doing that, then that means that they have one more health than you. So to offset that, you're going to start with more cards in your hand and you're going to have more gold. And it's like appreciable. Like there's a big difference, right? So I might only have 2 cards that I start out with and 3 gold, but they're going to have 6 gold and 5 cards in their hand or something like it's well thought out and it scales really well. And the time doesn't like develop, go huge or anything like that. So it's really, really nice there. Okay, so it scales well, but another thing that I think it does really good is catch-up mechanics. Now, so often games forget this kind of thing, and you have that kind of runaway winner, right? And you get the whole, like, the word, everybody knows risk, right? Where you just, you've lost the game, but you still have like 2 hours left of it, right? And that's not really the case here. You can definitely kind of catch up. And one of the ways to do that, for instance, is here where as you actually gain trophies, you have to start trashing cards more and more. By the time you're 1 trophy away from winning, you have to trash 3 of your cards. So you have to take 3 cards and get rid of them. You just lost health. You just lost movement. You just lost attack. You just lost defense. Remember, this is the most valuable thing in this game. You had to get rid of 3, just straight off the bat, just done. Right? And that's just there so that it slows you down a little bit so that other people have a chance to catch up. Additionally, the way that you get things for losing, right? If you lose a fight to either a creature or a witcher, different things happen, but they're done in a very level way to understand that you're always still gonna like be able to move forward, and it's not disastrous if you're constantly getting like attacked or something like that. So I think they did a really good job with that. And again, there are cards here that can just be like, take any card you want, and there could be a rank 2 card in there, bam, you got that. Right? I mean, so there's definitely plenty of opportunity. And you can't like block people from an area or anything like that too. So people are always able to kind of level up and get new cards and do different things like that. And then if you're just happen to be further ahead where they're going to slow that down a little bit, do that little rubber band effect, right? To make everybody else be able to still have a chance. You're not just like way up and ahead of everybody. And, some people don't have any trophy and you just won the game, right? That's rarely going to be the case. So, I thought that was quite nice too. I thought that was pretty good. Another thing that I really liked, that I say this in so many different reviews, I can't, after indexes, it might be my next thing, is changing the store. Again, one of the problems with something like, let's say they were all rank 0, right? So there are all these kind of low level cards and it's late game, right? It's like, I want like level 2 and level 1 cards at least. I don't want no rank 0 card here. Right? Which is actually still something you might want because you get it directly into your hand and so then you have an extra card. But getting rid of that. Conceptually, there might be a list of cards there that nobody wants. Right? And so that could just sit there in a game with a store that doesn't change. Right? It just sits there because nobody wants to spend the money to get it. right? And so it just sits there because nobody wants to be like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and buy that just so we can start getting new items, right? So a reset helps. Now, the zero cost helps, obviously. The negative cost helps too. This is kind of the small world idea, right? Where you're putting gold on it to make the ones that are not desirable more desirable. Well, they start out really expensive, but they end up cheaper, right? And so as it moves down here, it becomes more desirable. And so that's kind of what it lowers in value as it progresses. It goes +1, 0, -1. So there's that. Like I said, there's this ability here where you just get to get rid of 2. You don't have to buy them. You don't have to take them. You just get rid of 2, draw 2 more. And then of course there's people constantly getting them because you can do it for free. It doesn't cost an action. You get it every single turn where you can go and get a new card. So it's constantly cycling. So this is one of the best stores in that sense. So when it comes to like deck building, something like that, you always kind of have something interesting available or a way to handle something if none of them look interesting. And again, if nothing else, that card's now at 1 health for you. So there you go. Or maybe it's a good movement, right? Maybe you don't have enough water ones, and so you want to get more water ones. So that's really good as well. I'm going to have one more positive, and then I'm going to get into a few negatives here. The characters are all different. Like honestly different. I don't like that. A lot, they don't have unique actions per se. Yes, no. You're doing the same thing where you're moving around, you're exploring or attacking, you're buying a card. Moving around, right? You're still doing that. But like I said, each one has a unique thing, and they are quite unique. Like, the School of the Bear has a armor where once per fight, when you have 0 shields, you can gain additional cards and restore lost shields according to their attribute level. So suddenly, I'm just gaining shields and also drawing cards, right? The swordsman person here can do extra damage and draw extra cards. The person here can actually look at the opponent's deck, look at them, and then get rid of the ones that they don't want and put the rest back. And so it's kind of like that poison's eating away your health, because that's your health, right? Not only are they getting rid of your attacks and your defense or whatever they don't want you to have, but that's actually damage, right? That anything out of here is damage, right? Because that's your health. And so they have that. Another person might have magic, right? Where they can actually just use different magic during the fight. Very, very neat stuff. I liked how different that is. Also, I went through to make sure about this, but I've played a few characters now, but just to make sure, because I was like, I think they're different. Your starting deck is different. Some might have more attacks, some might have more draw, some might have more defense. So especially when you first start out, and not only that, but eventually you trash quite a few of these over the course of the game, perhaps. But not always. You'll still always have these starting cards, which have a convenient little symbol there, right? You'll feel a little bit different each time. You might feel that this guy's really tanky, or this guy hits really hard right from the beginning, or this person might have a wild so they can move around easier, or whatever it might be. And so it's really nice to have characters mean more. It means when you are on that Kickstarter, and if they unlock more, that's a meaningful upgrade, right? That's not just another character that's cookie cutter, right? They'll actually have a difference there when it comes to, assuming, they have a different special ability and all that kind of stuff. So really nice to have that. I really enjoyed having that variety. So that the characters that I pick actually change, which means if I want to feel a little bit different and extend the gameplay and the replayability, I might now go, because I've never actually played the Vipers, so perhaps I want to play Jasper over there to get that Venomous Steel and see how I feel about that. And of course, you can build into that too, right? And so if you know that you can get armor, and you can get lots of armor, well, you might be leveling up your defense to increase the max amount of defense you can have. But it might also mean that you're gaining, you're not concerned about the armor so much, and you can almost bypass that in your combos, because you can gain it anyway, and instead you're going to go for the attacks or the draw cards if you're short on draw cards, just by what you happen. So you can study kind of the decks and find out how each character plays a little bit too, but it can definitely affect the builds that you do when you're building your deck. So yeah, really liked that. Okay, so one negative I have, and I kind of alluded to this earlier when I said I cleaned up a little bit, is this game starts actually fairly compact, and I was pretty happy with it, right? You start with less than this. Okay, so you definitely start with less than this, right? You don't have all these potions, you don't have your trophies, you don't have maybe even some equipment and, the other various things that might progress, but the problem is almost everything has like a discard pile or trash. So you're going to be trashing you're going to be trashing stuff, right? And so literally get out of the game. So there's a pile somewhere that just has a stack of cards that you've been trashing, getting out of the game. Maybe in the game box, maybe on the table, it doesn't matter. But like I said, you are getting rid of some of these cards, and after you read this, right, you need to put that somewhere, or after you have all these potions, right, you can have up to 4, so each player can have 4, right? So sometimes you can stack them nice like that, other times you might have to put them to the side. You'll gain items, and these items go there too, so suddenly you have 1 or many items. It just depends on the quest you go. So and then you have the trophies here, and so you have that. And then you have this, and then you have your discard as well, and then of course you have your hand as well. So everybody could have 4 trophies and a discard here, and a discard there, and a discard there, and a deck there, and a deck there, and a deck here. And it kind of conflates, it kind of expands a little bit. So it might start out like this, but by the time you're done playing, you're going to have a whole bunch of stat cards over there, pretty much. You can't see it on the camera. I have a little bit of extra table space on this table, but this table can accommodate 4 players, and this is a pretty standard size table here, but it's full. It's full, right? Because then you have your trophy cards to give to other people, and then of course you have the enemy deck. I'll explain that in a little bit too. And then of course you have the dice, and it just expands a little bit. And I think one of the issues is that I think the cards could be smaller. Now that would just be a nice to have if I just wanted to save some table space, right? Because all cards are the same size, right? So your big old trophy is the same size as your card here, which, I mean, obviously there's a lot of space not used here, right? Which is the same as your card here, which is they're all the same size, which I love that they're all the same size. Don't get me wrong. I like that. Or the potions here. But obviously a lot of these are mostly art, right? And, what really drives me to actually put this, instead of just it'd be nice to have to no, I really wish they would be smaller, is you shuffle a lot. And the moment you shuffle a lot, I want sleeves, and if you want sleeves, you typically want a pretty standard card size, and these are just a little too big for that. I don't remember the precise measurements. They know them, and you can ask them about it, and I'm sure there are sleeves for it, but it's not, you're not just going to go get some Ultra Pro in the store and be able to be okay. They are a little bit larger, and so it'd be nice to have these a little bit smaller. It means it could save a little bit of space, right? Especially if they expand this map this would not fit on the table. I would not be able to play this on this table. I'd have to go to my dining room table, the big one, and be able to actually play it, right? If they made this any bigger at all. But if it was smaller, there is a lot of negative space here, and of course if they shrunk even more, you could pretty much get around that much extra space off of, I think, just the board, even keeping the map as it is, which I'm fine with the map. I mean, they're a little spread out, but then there are some that are pretty close too, and I won't want to scrunch them up too much. But it would also shrink all of this, right? So everybody's stuff would just shrink, and everything would become a little bit smaller, and I think that'd be perfect. But again, it's the ability to sleeve them is very nice because you do shuffle a lot. Because every time you fight, or you're being attacked or whatever, you're gonna take your discard, you're gonna take a regular deck, and you're gonna shuffle every time. Every time you're gonna do that. Right? And I already have all these dings and all these, and it's sad, but it's because you're going to shuffle many times. Okay? Every time you attack, you're going to be shuffling. And then, of course, afterwards, you played with the cards. So now you have to shuffle again. So you're going to shuffle twice every attack. And then you draw, however many cards you draw. Okay? So you end up drawing quite a few cards. I don't even know what I'm doing here. They're all kinds of different ways. Anyway, having these sleeved where you could actually mash shuffle, or just shuffle with more confidence that the cards are going to get all dinged up would be hugely beneficial, because you do shuffle a lot. It's not a game where you don't shuffle ever. You do quite often. So I guess that's all I had to say about that. Just table space saving would be nice. It's always welcome, right? These games can get monolithic if you let them. And this isn't. This is a manageable game. Like I said, I can play a 4-player game here, but it's close. And so having it just a little bit less claustrophobic, I think would be kind of nice too. So yeah, definitely would like the cards to shrink a little bit if I could. Okay, let's talk about combat, because, I mean, who cares about story and components and all? It's all about fighting, right? It's all about fighting. Everybody wants to fight. Well, you're going to fight a lot in this game. You're a Witcher. It's what you do. That and gamble, drink, whatever else. But the point is, the combat is actually quite satisfying for two reasons. Now, you guys know, again, if you've been watching the channel a lot, you know one of my preferences, one of my biases is I love fast combat. I like to just roll dice and know what I did. I don't want to go look up tables. I don't want to go figure out. I don't want to do some weird math. I don't want to like check, well, I have this and you have that, and then, oh, you have that item there. Okay, well, I can do this ability now and change this, and then I don't want a 5-minute ordeal just to figure out how to, who won, right? For a dice game. For cards, I like to build cards and all that kind of stuff. But again, you don't want two people to be fighting and the other people to go make a sandwich or take a nap or leave and don't come back, or say they hate you and that you need to get out of their house and don't ever bring this game again. Like, you don't want any negativity there. You don't want them just to be twiddling their thumbs. Oh, it'd be nice if I was fighting or doing anything, right? Like, that's what sucks. That was one of my issues with Tainted Grails and that whole minigame thing, is it could take a while and it was this wholly separate thing, right? So, few things they did here. They added a wager system so you can bet on who would win and maybe earn some money. So you're interested in what other people are doing, and you might want to pick on the loser too, right? So maybe you want to fight them next because they're not going to be drawing as many cards and they're not going to be doing so hot. Maybe you've used all their potions, So there's a lot there going on. So you're typically interested, but it doesn't last that long either. It's actually pretty darn quick. Typically about 4 to 5 rounds, but you can get to a point. My wife just murderized a monster right up front. Just first move, hey, what's up? Pfft, you're dead, right? Freaking exploded his head or something, I don't know, but it was freaking sweet. You can do that, and that's because the card combos are really good. I kind of commented on them, but I think it's better when you actually see like the more legitimate strategies, right? And so you have different stuff like this card right here allows you to combo either a yellow or a red attack, right? Which is nice, right? So if you have the crushing blow, well, boom, bam, you got that. Now, what makes this a fantastic one and why this is so good is because this lets you take that card back. So this crushing blow that does 3 damage, you got it back, right? Now, if you recall, cards are your health, right? You lose a few, you lose them all, just like your health. So getting a card back is essentially healing. And in fact, there are other cards there's a lot of magic signs, right? There's the yellow ones, right? Like this, right? Actually, this is perfect, right? This one right here, it can actually have you take it from your discard. That's a heal, right? It doesn't say heal on there, but that's what that is. And it's just like, I love watching new people play Conan because what they do is invariably every single time, and I've done this with 3 different groups before, where you're playing with them, and then suddenly, at one point in the game, someone goes, oh, these are kind of like your health, huh? Because it's not mentioned in the rule book. Nobody went and told them that. I purposely don't tell them that. I think it's cool to figure that out, that I'm using these gems to attack and move and all that, and suddenly I realize, like, when I'm getting hurt, I'm like, or I heal, and I'm like, well, this is my health. This is my health pool. Conan has 12 health. It's just his health allows him to also activate and do different. Yes, exactly. Same thing here. So you're playing this and you realize, like, I just took that out of my discard. That was lost health that I just gained back. Again, I love it. I know I'm gushing on that again, but the combo system is actually really darn good because of the lead-ins to different cards. So, and because you can gain shields and stuff like that. Because again, every shield you get is a health saved. Right? Every time I do this instead of this, I'm not losing health. So that's essentially preventing one from going. So if you lay down a card and it prevents a damage, that paid for itself, right? That would have been a lost damage. Okay, so you can think of it kind of like a resource. And once you start thinking, I hope you get how deep this can get from me explaining this. So once you realize that, okay, this card pays for itself, right? Because it gives me a shield. But on top of that, it allows me to take back the card I played, which gains me health. So really, I can play 2 cards and gain a card from that experience, right? Because I'm going to get less damage, so I'm not going to get hurt as much. So I'll have an extra card in here than I would have otherwise, plus the card I got back. So this one card, as long as it's comboed with another one, allows me to actually gain a card. Essentially, right? Plus costs him 2 damage. And so you get these kind of things, and you also get the ability you have a hand limit of 7, and you get to the point, especially higher level, where you're being, especially with your combat level higher and stuff like that, and just better cards, you're able to draw a lot of cards. And so sometimes you might even have a kind of a crappier card. There's a crappier version of this. that has a -3 to your draw, right? But if you are playing the game and you know that I am going to be left with 5 cards, I'll still be able to draw 2. So that costs nothing. At that point, that negative's even out there, right? So maybe it's beneficial to use that card, but only when you have a lot of cards in your hand. Because then you're not going to be able to draw your full amount anyway. You're going to be stopped at 7. And so you might keep that for only using it when you have a whole bunch. So you might want to lead into that. Even if you have a better card like this, that technically is better because the amount drawn doesn't matter there, right? And so you get into all this kind of thing where you're just trying to optimize your move versus their move and really juggle the defense versus damage, right? That's kind of I think the biggest thing here. And of course, you can get really cool combos where you're adding, like, you're making one thing do like 8 damage or some ridiculous thing like here. Like, here's a great one here. This is Lightning Reflex. It's a great one to actually lead in with because you can generate 2 shields, plus the next card you do is going to do 2 additional damage, right? So then maybe you combo with this one, and so now this is doing 3 damage, plus that, and then you can still combo off that over, and I mean, it gets ridiculous. So you definitely feel powerful and all that, but it's quick. It's quick. That is the other positive here, is that it's fast, especially with monsters. So how monsters work, again, they have a health. They got, 13 health? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's their health, also their card amount, right? Now, you're fighting somebody. All they decide is charge or bite. Let's do a bite. Bite takes 3 damage. Now it's your turn. That's it. That was it. That was it. If I'd done charge, says the player discards a number of random cards from their hand, or if they have an empty hand from the top of their deck according to the monster level. If that was a level 2, like I was actually, it's level 2 that I was looking at, so they would discard 2 cards, right? So this essentially does 2 damage, but it scales with the monster there. The 3 damage was better anyway. And you can keep doing that, and so it goes quick, and so you're doing that, and then you only have the 7 cards, and so you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and lead in with this. I'll do 2 damage. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and do that crushing blow to where it does 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. Then I do 6 damage to him. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bite. The player takes damage equal to their alchemy level. Okay, well, crap, I just upgraded alchemy. I just took 3 damage. Well, okay, 1, 2, 3. Joke's on you, I had the shield. Now I'll play good. All right, it goes quick. To where it only takes 2 minutes to fight. And like a high level one too. Because as they get stronger, I mean, so are you. It actually goes really quick, especially once people know what they're doing, especially with the combos. And typically you go into a fight like ready to lay down, like this is going to be my first move. And so it goes quick. It's not something that you're going to spend forever on, but it's fun, right? So you're just going to have fun. You're interacting with somebody else, and people are, being able to place bets if you're fighting another Witcher and stuff like that. And I like it. I really do. A lot of fun with the combat. Actually, very enjoyable card game here. Now, with that said, the monsters are a little bit of a disappointment here, and I'll explain why, and I think how I would like it to be improved, whether they do or not. I'm just one guy. So, the different enemies have different health, right? Which is just different amounts of cards, which is nice, right? And each one has a special thing. And some of them are fairly cool, like, I think the ghouls say, on the first time you attack them, you can only do 2 damage. So you might have that cool freaking thing, but you're only doing 2 damage. If you do more, they are only going to discard 2, no matter what you do. Okay? So maybe you just want to shield up then, right? That's typically what I do with them. So I'll do a little bit of damage, but mostly I'm just gaining shields. So the second turn, bam, there you go. Face plant, you're dead. And then I feel all boss, and I pop my collar, and I walk off and get a soda or something. I don't know. I made that last part up. But the point is that they all have different things. There's I can never remember the plant one. Whatever. Anyway, you have to discard a potion to even fight it, right? So it eats one of your potions, or it takes it, or well, whatever. You drop it on your way to fight it. But if you don't notice, both of those things happen, and then that's it, and there's nothing different. Because they're all using these cards. Every single one. Every single one's charge or bite. Every single one is you flip it over and does that. They don't do anything different or unique or anything like that. And in fact, some of them, like this Fiend guy here, says if this monster is defeated, the player suffers fatigue as normal and trashes 1 additional card. Now, I mean, that sucks, right? But that's only at the end, which means fighting it is the exact same. There's no difference. Now, there are some that kind of get there, like this Noon Wraith here. says that during each player's turn, their shield level can only be raised by 1. They ignore additional shield raises. So that actually affects you every single turn, right? So every single turn you're fighting that and you can't get your shield up, right? No matter what you do, they're drawing the same freaking cards everybody else does, but at least you feel a little bit different in that battle, because when you fight the Noon Wraith, you especially if you went heavy into that, right? It's like, oh, I gain 2. No, I gain 1. That's it. Every turn. And so you constantly have this little thing, so it's a tougher fight. That is kind of cool, and I wish more were like that. But even still, you are just using these cards, and that's it. And they do not change, and you will fight the same. They don't have any character, any soul into them. They do interesting things like alchemy, but it's not even named anything. It's Spider Charge. This isn't like, alchemy suck or whatever that move would be. I don't know what you would call that, but they're not thematic or anything like that, right? In fact, a charge might do 4, or a bite might do 4. Let me give a bite, and there's a bite with 2 and a charge with 5, or here's a bite with 3, or another bite with 3. So what is the difference between these two? Well, the charge is different, I guess, but you don't feel any different, right? You don't really get any change out of there. There's not enough variety, I feel, in the bosses or in the monsters. They're fun to fight. They look great. They'll look fantastic as miniatures. But they don't really feel different, because they're all just using this kind of bite charge mechanic. And I can't put decks back together today, can I? So, I mean, it is what it is. It would be nice if I'm fine with using this the majority of the time. It'd be nice if they came with 2 to 3 unique cards that they have. Hate does this with their mercenaries a lot, where they have a mercenary deck, right, that every mercenary uses, but each mercenary will often come with like a unique thing that they do that's thematic to them, and they'll have 2 to 3 or more cards that slot in there to be able to use more. I don't know if any have 3, but either way, they'll have something unique to that fight. So when you fight them, they're doing this one thing that's kind of interesting. And so when you have 4 to 5 roundabouts, which isn't always the case, but sometimes is, you might get that card. And or it's always in the deck, right? So you take that plus however much health they have, and that way you just feel a little bit different. Maybe they take away all of your potions, or maybe the Noon Wraith sucks because not only does she get rid of your shields, but she also tends to get rid of one of your combo cards or of the same color that you used before. Or I don't know, whatever. Like, I'm not the game designer here. I'm just saying it would be nice to have them be a little bit more variable in how you fight them. I would have appreciated that. And mainly because it would allow me, especially with replays, to, like maybe I really struggle. My game style doesn't match really well with the Fiend. And so the Fiend is like my arch nemesis meta-wise, right, in this game. And so every time I choose a contract, I'm not picking him. And so instead I'll go find the trail on somebody else and do that. And maybe, I finally beat that guy. And he always beat me because he was this and that, and not just, he randomly had the same cards everybody else had, and just bad luck or whatever. So it would have been nicer to have some more variety there. And I think adding a few cards could probably do that and not fuss up too much stuff. That's the problem, is you don't want to, this is such a streamlined game, you don't want to fuss it up with fiddly things, right? Fiddly mechanics. Leave the fiddly bits out of this. Let's make sure it's still streamlined, but a little bit of variety would have been nice. Or at least differences that affect more than just the end of after you're done fighting them or something like that, where they're just completely generic. Okay, that brings me to, I guess, the components real quick. And I must say, again, this is a prototype, obviously, so nothing is final here. Should have said at the beginning. I'll put some text in the beginning if I remember to edit it in there. However, I can say, first of all, that you interact with your miniature very often. Like I said, you're moving multiple times every single turn. And seeing another Witcher there and then having that fight or that brawl is very nice, especially because it's such a big point from these. These are not standees, these are tokens. So your big bad level 3 boss here is just a token. Having that miniature there would be hugely beneficial, I think, because they have a big table presence and that they're on there a lot. They don't just spawn and you kill them. If you did that, you'd win very quickly, right? They are on there for quite a while. And now they don't move. They just kind of chill there. It might be kind of interesting to start moving them around and doing things, but it'd be a little complex too, I think, to integrate. But either way, having the Noon Wraith here and having the Fiend here and have they're there and you see them for long periods of time, multiple rounds, they will be there. To the point where sometimes you might still have a level 1 there that just nobody ever fought or fought and lost to twice, or not that that ever happened. But they stay on the table for quite a while and definitely add value to the visual narrative and storytelling and just being able to know where it is too, right? Because at the end of the day, sometimes they're a little dark in the art. And so you're like, okay, where is the ghoul again? Where's the ghoul's right here. He was right there last time. I killed him. Don't worry about it. So problem solved there. The people can rest easy. But I literally forgot where he was, right? So I had to go look and, oh no, it's not there. It's not there. And then I was like lost track. Like, okay, here's the token here. Okay, there he is. Miniature would have solved that. So I highly encourage any kind of added miniatures. I think that adds a lot to this particular game because they stay on the table a while. There are games where they like appear and go away, right? A lot of dungeon crawls are like that, right? It's like, oh, we're gonna spawn goblins, and you take the goblins or the zombies, or whatever, you put them there, and like, I'm gonna kill them, and you kill them, and you're like, okay, I guess we're going back. It's like, I'm glad I got those out of the box. I've done that before, where it's like, oh, I forgot the expansion character. I come in here and I go grab the box, and I come out there, and I open it up, and I fuss with the plastic tray lid, and I put it on there, and then they just die instantly. It's like, well, what the heck did I even do that for? They were there for a second. Not the case here. Definitely will be on the table to be admired and looked at for quite some time. Okay, let's talk about shopping. So some people like combat and that's what they're all about. Some people like the stories and that's what they're all about. And some people like shopping and deck building. And that's what they're all about. I happen to luck out and I love all three. So I was okay here. But shopping every single turn is nice. Sometimes in deck builders, it's not something you do every turn. It's something you could do maybe every turn, but it has a cost, right? And here, especially with these 0 costs, you just take that and gain it. There you go. It's yours. Welcome to it. And you do that every single time. That is step 3. Step 2, you could fight or do that. Step 1, you can move around or not and do actions or not. You are always doing this. Now, it might be that they're all 2 cost happen chances. 1 would be 1 and 2 would be 3, and you don't want any of them. And I think that's fine. I can't remember if it says you have to gain 1 or not. We always did. You're always going to want a card. Again, it's more health. It's more cool things. And you draw right before you actually go there. So you always have cards in your hand to pay for it too. You can have some where you only draw 2, maybe because, bad times in the fights and stuff like that. But for the most part, you can always get a card. And so it's really nice to be able to shop each time. I would like, and this isn't a negative, this is just something, hey, it's going on Kickstarter. Maybe they haven't decided all the stretch goals. I don't know. Just putting it out there. I would like to see some rare, 3 cards. I think that'd be awesome. I think that'd be really cool. So that right now there's 0, 1, or 2. But about halfway through, you tend to just have a lot of 2s. And they're cool and they're nice, but they do lose their flair a little bit. And it would be very cool to see a 3 pop up and be like, okay, who wants to buy it for 4? That's expensive, right? That's definitely late game, right? And you don't want that. You can't even draw 4 the first time. So you'd have to really try. But maybe you do because it's really good. It's really, really cool. But then it's like, okay, now it's only 3. Do you want to get it, or are you wanting to wait until then, or is someone going to nab it before you get it, right? Because it's that kind of visual drafting. Titans had that as well with their commands. There was kind of like their mandates from Rising Sun, if you've seen that, where it was there and you could pick it, or you could wait till where it gets cheaper, but then maybe somebody picks it before you do, or maybe you don't want somebody else to have it. And having a 3, like a hardcore 3 in there, I think would just add a lot of more decision points and more excitement into that, because then it's also really cool to get it and it's really cool to use it. And then I can see the meta now where I wanted to get that, but then my wife takes it and then I go, ooh, because I visually give up what I wanted always. So then she uses it and to fight me later on, and she's like, ha, you remember this sucker? Here it is. And then I die and then I cry in a little corner and she goats and laughs over me. And that's everybody's relationship's different. Okay. All I'm saying is I would love to see 3s in there. I think that'd be great. Just to add some excitement there, a little bit of, I don't know. I like the fat loot, right? I like the epic, shiny, glowy, foil carded up, ultra powerful So I really, really dig that in games anyway, and I feel like that would be very impactful. That being said, upgrades are impactful. I always like to talk about that because sometimes you get upgrades, but they don't really, you don't really feel stronger. A lot of times the enemies are getting stronger, but then you're gaining power at like the same amount, so you don't actually feel any better, if that makes sense. One of the nice things that lead to this, right, is the fact that you can still have a level 3 and a level 1 at the same time, right? So you can have a weak dude. So that stupid plant that you couldn't kill twice, well, you could come back late game because it's still there, sitting there with its fancy little miniature maybe, or maybe just a crappy token, just whatever. I'm kidding. I don't like attacking tokens, actually, so I'll be getting miniatures. But maybe you don't mind attacking tokens. Either way, get sidetracked. You could go there and you can wallop it, bam, turn 1, slice off its plant head or whatever the heck it has, and feel powerful. And that's really nice. So having low level and high level guys at the same time definitely help with that. Again, if they were all level 3s, you might not feel that much powerful. I mean, it's nicer when, especially if you get like a fancy miniature or something like that, where you feel like you're fighting bigger and better things, right? You always start in like an MMO or an RPG fighting rats in a sewer, and you end up fighting like dragons and necromancers that are, spawning different things, and you're like, you feel more powerful because of the stuff you're fighting. So that can lead to it too, but being able to actually overpower something that's weaker, that used to give you trouble, adds that as well. And then of course, just the jump in how much better these cards are. Because even these 0 cost cards are better than your starting cards. So your starting cards are really kind of crappy, especially when it comes to leading to new things, right? Chaining events. And so you start out by just doing 1 or 2 combos, like max. You can maybe do a 3 combo. I think everybody, I can't remember, has at least 2, but maybe only 2 that lead to another card. So, and in fact, I don't even remember if they lead to each other. I don't think they do. So it get very, very hard. You start out just, I did 2 damage. I'm level 0, right? that's what you're doing. You got 10 health. It's whatever. Suddenly you have 20 health and you're laying down 9 damage, and it feels so much more impactful to lay down card. When you do like a 4 or 5 combo, it feels so good. It's awesome. You really feel the impact of growth here and getting stronger. Part of that's in the cards, part of that's in just drawing more and having more defense and all that. But the combination between the monsters on the board and the stats and the cards, upgrades are felt in a good way. And so I really like that as well. Okay, let's get to my number 1 thing this game needs. But first I'm going to talk about events. These are the events that you're going to go through. There's quite a few here. Quite a few outside. There's quite a few inside. And you're only exploring once per turn. Now that means that if you play a 2-player game, you're going to have a lot more turns, but, I think in general you see more cards with higher player count, I think. Just because there's typically a lot more like, oh, I didn't quite fight the boss because you were fighting me, and so I had to fight with you, and I lost, and so then I wasn't ready to fight, not the boss, but the monster, so I didn't get the trophy sooner. So, again, I think it does slow down a little bit there, but you see an event that they do. I mean, unless you leave the room, you hear what the event was, and you hear what the event was. Now, each of them are multiple choice. It's only 2 choices in each one. Sometimes there are multiple chains of choices, and you get to do that as well. But the events are very, very good. Very good. Like, you're going through here, and they have some of the, it's exactly, I think, what you would expect. I have dealt with drunk dwarves. I have drank random potions from people I shouldn't have. There was one person who had a horse on a roof. I left that one alone. I stumbled across a vampire. That did not end well for me. He definitely startled me. But there are other times where I'm like, I'm gonna kill this guy, and I just go and I kill him, and I take that, stupid harpies. So there's a lot of events that can happen here, a lot of interesting things. They're not all, some of them are silly a little bit, horse on a roof. Some of them are fun, drunken dwarves always are. Some of them are, much more, combative. Some of them are just interesting scenarios. Like a guy comes up and he's dressed very nicely and he says, "Hey, I'll pay you to make it seem like I drove you away, because then I'll look really cool." Well, do you take his money, or do you think maybe that's below me? Or do you think maybe that's a scam and he's actually going to try and kill you? Or, you're thinking of all these different things, and there's all the, there's a hurt kid. Do you try to heal the kid, or you try to fight the monster that's rampaging through the city? You might hurt another kid. Are you going to let him die, or, maybe let some other kid, like what are your choices? They have a lot of that in here, and a lot of that's really good. And then some of the more, ones that, are multi-tiered, right? Where you go on a different quest, I think are quite good too. And the quest system is also, I think, quite nice. I think they handled it really, really well. I yelled about it in my earlier video how Fallout, the original, the Fallout the board game by Fantasy Flight Games, did quests terribly, because you'd talk to an old lady and she'd be like, "Hey, can you pick up my ammo crate that I left for my shotgun? Over there or whatever," right? And so you put a quest there, and then somebody's like, "Oh, look, an ammo crate. I guess I'll turn this into some old lady I've never spoken to." And you're like, "What? How does that even work?" So the quests are to you alone, and so you are on this quest. You have this follower. You have this objective to go talk to this guy here, not somebody else. And so that's done really well. And I'm going to tie quests in with trails. So when you fight a monster, if you aren't on its trail, it attacks you first. Not if you stumble across it, right? Or you just weren't prepared, right? A lot of The Witcher is about preparing, and that's here as well. And so you get hit first, and that can suck, right? Because that's just right out of the gate. You might be able to kill them in one hit, but if they attack you first, they're still hurting you, right? And some of them you might choose charge, and it has you trash a card. That'll affect you forever. It's not like you're going to re-heal that up. Okay, so sometimes you really don't want to be attacked. To do that, you can actually go on trails. So there are events where you can go on trails. Essentially, somebody says, "Oh, hey, I think my cousin Billy over in, Bernard here, I was having some trouble with some ghouls." So you have to go over to there, and then you get a gold, and then you also get the token of the monster. And so now you're on the trail. He tells you some information. "Oh, yeah, he likes to hang around the swamps, but only at night. But I heard he's skittish around, whatever. I don't care. So then you go over there, and you're more prepared, so you get to attack first. And so the quest system it makes thematic sense. It works well mechanically, and I quite enjoyed it. It's thematic both in story and just in the meta of, I'm on the trail of this monster. I'm actually tracking it, not just stumbling across it, so I get to attack first. So I'm more prepared. So it's more advantageous to me, but I have to go out of my way to go talk to people and figure out, where it is, or track it down, or whatever it might be. I thought the quest system worked quite well. I was happy with that. Back to, I think, the number one thing this game needs. If the Kickstarter is going to unlock anything at all, I want more event cards. Because the game is always replayable, right? You can pick new people, you can try different strategies, you can try different deck building, strategies there. You can fight more monsters. You can even add more monsters to fight. That's fine. Or more people to pick from. But at the end of the day, one of the things that people hate repeating, and that's understandable, is, "Oh, it's a horse on the roof. Do you want to get the potion, or do you want to, raise an attribute? Because we've done this 3 times now." Right? It kills this entire mechanic, right? The moment you see a fair amount of it, I would guess you're going to get about as much. I would say you can get, based off just this prototype thing, you can play 10 times and still be happy with it, right? I think 10 times, and you're going to get repeats, but you're still going to get some new stuff too, especially this stuff that's multi-tiered, right? You can still try new things, because every card you get is a double, right? You might say, "Oh, the horse on the roof again," but I've never actually tried to save the horse. And then you try to save the horse, it's like, okay, well, now I have this thing here, and I'm struggling here, or this happened here. And so you get that card twice before you've seen it all, right? But because everybody's at the table, everybody has now experienced that card. So whether it happened to you or not, it's the horse on the roof again. So with each of these doubled, right? I mean, that's a fair amount. Now you're going to go through quite a few of them, but they're double. So I would say you could probably get about 10 good plays out of this before you're seeing so few new cards, right? Assuming that you're shuffling this, right? What you don't want to do is just put them on the bottom and keep getting new ones. Yes, you'll get all new ones, but you're going to get repeats a lot. Then afterwards, everything's a repeat, right? Your second, your third playthrough. But by the time I'd played this 3 times, there were some where I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember this," but I hadn't seen the other one, right? And so I was still getting that. And so now I've had cards where I've done both options, or I've heard both options. Not all of them came to me. So those cards are kind of like a, yeah, okay, right? But it's still kind of interesting. But after 10, I can see it kind of going. Now, 10 is kind of a common gauge for me, right? Zombicide typically always comes with 10 scenarios. That crappy Fallout game came with 5, but it's Fantasy Flight Games. They don't know what value is. So this is Kickstarter here, okay? We're talking about good stuff here. Now, if you buy this retail, again, assuming you get all this, you got 10 solid playthroughs before you start to see that. And you can decide how much that matters to you with the events. But adding more events, number one thing. Because I can repeatedly fight a monster. I can repeatedly go to another location. I can repeatedly play him, and it doesn't really bother me. But you will start skipping these. I mean, you're gonna read it and you're gonna make the decision, but it loses almost all of its value, as opposed to something where it's still valuable to have the cool armor mechanic, and I still like doing that. Story tends to not be that way. Once you've played it 1, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times over, you ain't gonna read the horse on the roof anymore. It's not something you're interested in. Or if you're playing with a new person, you have to read it again, and you're like, I've read this so many times. So when it comes to narrative, number one thing, I would say add more events or exploration cards or whatever you want to call them. Just my personal thing, I think so. You can maybe go more than 10 or less, or just kind of depends, but add more of those. You'll add to the replayability of the entire game just based off those. Okay, guys, we're at the very end of the video. I have 2 little kind of throwaway compliments for this game. Dice poker's fun. I suck at it. It's because I suck at rolling, but it is enjoyable to go here and be like, oh, I got a pair of 1s, or I got a 5, 6, 3, so maybe I do this and get nothing. Yay, I got a 2 pair of 5. Again, I suck at it, but my point is that it allows me to roll dice in a card game and have a little bit of fun that literally lasts 30 seconds, right? You roll, they roll, you roll, you do your re-roll, they do their re-roll. I suck at rolling dice, I got a pair of 3s. My point is that it adds a little bit different. It's wholly different from anything you're doing because you're rolling dice as opposed to anything else. And it's a nice little diversion. I think it works really well. And again, it's integrated into a few different things because you can bet against an actual Witcher, another player, or against the house to try and get more money that way. Which again, then the money can then go towards fighting or towards buying stuff or what have you. So, and again, adds dice. I liked it. The other thing I wanted to note, and Game on Board always does a good job on this, is the reminders on the board. So symbology can be a little rough. Every symbol here you learn very quickly. It's very straightforward and simple and easily understandable. There's some symbols here that you don't use too often, right? That is a little bit harder, but not too much. But some of it's like, I don't know what that necessarily means. But again, it's assuming you know the rule. And so then it's just reminding you of that rule. You just can't cut away. Oh, that's right. I draw 3. Okay, I remember that now. Or, whatever it might be. But I love the reminders. I love that this has a 1, 2, and 3 there. So when I can explain the game, I'm like, okay, first you do this. Then you do this, you either fight or explore, and you do this, you buy one of these. When you're here, you're moving around doing actions. It's very nice to have that label there. It's very nice to have the tracker right here on the board. It's very nice to have a spot here for everything. It's very nice to have these symbols here to remind me so I don't have to go look up what they are or do something weird like that. It's very nice to have the +1s in there, and it's nice to have these reminders here. Just the reminders on the board are convenient. Same with here, there's a lot of the symbols here to remind me on what each thing does so I remember. So, I really appreciate the attention to detail on that. It's nice to have different slots for different things, of course, besides discard piles, which just kind of go where you need them to go, I guess. So anyway, that's my review for The Witcher Old World. I had a lot of fun with this one. I really did. I played it all day today, literally, and I enjoyed it. I think the miniatures look great. I like the art. I know a lot of people don't like the reuse of official art, but it is good art at least. So it still looks nice. I mean, it's not like it's something terrible or weird or ugly or anything like that. Even the backs of them, I mentioned that in my unboxing, but I like how they fit together based off the style of the back. It all looks like it's part of the same game, so I like that too. It's just an enjoyable little card game. I like the deck building, I like the exploring and the story part, and I like fighting and doing different things, and get to roll some dice and try different strategies, and I actually do want to try the Venomous Steel guy next, so I'll probably be Viper next. They start over here. Yeah, it's just a really, really fun game. I enjoyed it. I was actually quite surprised. I was kind of worried a little bit, to be honest. Just because when you look at it, right, and especially if you look at something played, oftentimes it's hard to actually feel the fun, right? I don't know about you, I hate watching people play board games. I think it's the most boring thing ever. I'd rather watch some stupid TV, and I never watch TV. I'd rather play my own board game than watch somebody else play a board game. It doesn't properly convey the fun factor to me, right? They might be acting like they're having fun, but to me, I'm just like, you played 3 cards. So what? But when you realize, like, when you actually feel like, oh, those 3 cards feel so much better than the crappy 3 cards I started with, because those are all like level 2s and 1s. They build off each other and do this thing, and I'm already higher level. Like, it just, you kind of almost kind of feel it, I think. But I really enjoyed my time here. I was actually having a lot of fun building the combos. I enjoyed feeling stronger and more tanky. I thought that was awesome. And so I did with this guy because he has the armor skill anyway, right? So I'm like, I'm just going to always have armor, like every time. Which again, armoring up is nice. I like that. So I doubled down into it. Because he actually starts with less armor than, say, the sword fighter, believe it or not. But it's because he can also start, gaining armor and stuff like that. But it's nice to build into that, knowing later level, you're gonna get that. So, and going on quests and stuff like that, I enjoyed it. Recommended, definitely. It's a fun one, which is good because a lot of people are signed up for it. So I guess I'll be among you guys. But anyway, that's my review for that. Again, link down below to the description. If you appreciate this detailed level review where I spend, I don't even know how long, normally 40 plus minutes talking to you in depth about specific mechanics to help you decide if this game is right for you, and not giving it some, it's an 8 out of 10, it's a 7, it's whatever matches your tastes, what you need on the shelf, what you want on the table, what your group likes. If you found stuff that I discussed that helped you out, let me know with a like or a comment. That does appreciate it. I make these videos for you, not for Game On Board, not for me. I would just play the game, not make a video about it. I do this for you, so I hope you appreciate that level of detail. And again, if you can't support, link down below. Otherwise, either way, have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys again really soon with a details video on this. So I'll be talking about the game mechanics in detail so you can get a quick synopsis on it. So be on the lookout for that as well. All right, thanks guys.